St. John, in the beginning was the Word was with God, the Word was God. And the same word throughout all religions as the Om, the Amen, and the Hum of the Tibetans and the Hunavar of the Zoroastrians means the one thing, the voice of which Kabir spoke. He who listens to his voice. That's why we must meditate and be in the Om more and more. Then we will realize. And another reference which Kabir speaks of. He says, through his own powers, man, I read that, through his own powers, man cannot attain to the knowledge of God, but through listening to the Om. And so, environment is very important. I'll have a little more to say of it in just a minute. On the other hand, company. Company is also very important. We should mix with those people whose consciousness and magnetism does not depress us, but rather lifts us up. Some people, you come into their consciousness and presence, and they depress you terrifically. But we should mix with those people who lift us, who give us enthusiasm, who bring out within us the hot, natural love, who give us vitality, and who give us peace and bliss. Those are the people we should mix with. That's the company we should be in. And we can have that company. Most assuredly in such gatherings as this, such meetings of the fellowship and such friendship in self-realization fellowship, wherein Master has implanted the presence of God. Company is very important. Certain people you mix with will stimulate within you the heart natural love. Now, love is not something you give to people. It's not something I give to people. It's something God gives to us and through us gives to others. And so when you love a person, realize that's the power of God, of the holy vibration, the Word, the feeling aspect of God flowing through you. Now, when you can increase that so that all the dross of the heart is removed, then that love of God flows through you. And that's the supreme force in the universe. As the two commandments say, thou shalt love God with all thy strength and thy might. Why? Because it's supreme, it is a supreme pulling power, the attractive force of God pulling all things back to Him. That's why you feel when divine love comes, it's the supreme force of the universe. That's why it overwhelms you, not just human love. And so, those people who stimulate that within you, such as the Guru or saint, those people are the ones to follow. And by stimulating your heart's natural love, realize it's not something you give to people. That's the thing we must remember. It's something God gives to all of us and through us to one another. Now that heart's natural love is what everyone needs. When you feel that, you cannot hate anyone, no matter if they're your worst enemy. As Jesus said, you can turn the other cheek. And that heart's natural love, because it is the greatest force in the universe, does what to you? It gives you moral courage. Moral courage to go ahead in spite of everything. It also gives you the right conception of things. Just like if you feel the power of God, instead of thinking, oh, that person, I have no use for. The conception is different because you feel God's love in your heart and you know it in that one's heart. And finally, it is God's love which gives you the highest concentration, or samadhi, which simply means an expansion of consciousness from this worldly existence, limited, diverse consciousness to the unity of God's presence. And when that comes, when all barriers are removed and all veils torn down, then you will realize there's one consciousness in the universe, and that's your own consciousness, and the same in every other person. That's the unity of God's presence. That comes through right company to begin with. Those people, instead of irritating you, give you peace. and calmness. Mix with those people, especially in the beginning. Avoid the others. They only keep you in turmoil because they're in turmoil themselves. So, company is very important. Now, reverent contact with a saint or with saintly people, with loving attention to them, is the next environment, or perhaps next environment to the presence of God within. Because in the saints and in saintly people, God is manifesting more. And so loving attention to a saint is very important. K-Beer says this about that. This is so because the law of environment. As I said, when you mix with worldly people, you become like them. You cannot help it. Some of the stuff rubs off on you. And when you mix with saintly people, you become like them. And saintly people, or saints, are channels of God. God is manifesting more through them. And so realize and remember the law of environment is very simple, and watch your company. Now, K-Beer has this to say, most beautiful words. He says, the company of saints will make your burdens light. I remember I used to mix with the master, and I'd go in there with a list that long. Questions. Everything was amiss. Suddenly I'd be sitting there and everything was peaceful and calm. Why? Because I was in the company of the